Hi, and welcome to another episode of ET Talk. This is ET Talk episode 6, and today we're continuing our conversation about digital accessibility and accessibility in general. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by one of our students who works with us in our Digital Accessibility Center, Jaxsen, who's a graduate student here at the university. I'd like to introduce everybody to Jaxsen. Jaxsen, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me here. My name is Jaxsen Day. I'm a PhD student at the School of Information studying accessibility and education as my overall focus of research right now. And my advisor is Ken Fleischman. I'm also working with Mario Guerra on the enterprise technology team.
That's great, Jaxsen. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you joining us today. Tell me a little bit about your program. You're in the iSchool. You're working with Ken. Fantastic group. As a matter of fact, little known fact, I used to be faculty in the School of Information Sciences and Technology at Penn State University, which was an iSchool, one of the, I think the second iSchool in the country, maybe the third. Love the iSchool curricula and curriculum. What's your area of focus?
So my area of focus is the accessibility of higher education for students with disabilities. Particularly, my dissertation focuses on the barriers of access to academic reading materials, things like digital academic articles and things like this.
So give us a sense of what you've learned through your studies and what your research is telling you, and maybe what we should be thinking about as a university based on what you've learned and discovered.
Wow, Cole, I really appreciate that question. So part of my dissertation work has been talking to academic librarians, for instance.
Okay.
We interviewed 28 of them across the entire United States on barriers that they personally experience when trying to assist a disabled student acquire accessible versions of reading materials. And there are a lot of barriers in terms of vendors.
Yep.
There's a lot of barriers in terms of assistive tech training on both the student side and the librarian side as they see it. Of course, there's a cost barrier, which is slightly less interesting because everybody needs more money.
Right.
And there are just organizational collaboration barriers. For instance, the process for attaining accommodations as a disabled student is not the same across institutions. And some librarians have more discretion as to what they can do or not do if you're registered with a disability service office or not.
That's interesting. So you as a student and other students, there's really not one way to think about this or process your access to information or even the participation on campus. It's really however the campus decides to organize itself.
That was a wonderful synthesis. You said it shorter than I ever could.
Well, all I know is that one of the things we're trying to do here at UT is to actually bring those resources together, because there are so many of these barriers that they feel like they're out of our control, but the ones that are in our control seem like the ones that we could be focusing on.
Yes, they are absolutely. There are plenty of barriers within our control, and I do think the team at UT here, your team, Mario, everything that Ken is doing, y'all are doing a fantastic job of identifying emerging technologies and the ways that these technologies can put power back in the hands of the students.
That's interesting. You said something a minute ago as part of your barriers where you said that there's a lack of training on both the producer side, so the instructor side, and the student side. Talk a little bit more about that from your maybe more formative experiences growing up. When you were in school, say in high school and middle school, what kind of tools or assistance did you have at your disposal to guide you through your learning?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, and we're going to get into some stuff as a CIO I think you'll like.
Okay.
I had to learn how to use a screen reader.
You had to teach yourself.
Yes. Nobody taught me to use a screen reader. My school gave me access to a computer. It was an old Dell Latitude brick, one of the gray.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
About 2 inches thick.
And I had to teach myself how to utilize these technologies. I had a head start because my mother was actually a computer programmer.
Okay.
back in the days when computer programming was brand new. And she put me in front of a computer when I was like 4.
Okay.
Just to be playing around with it. So I was not a stranger to technology, but I had to teach myself how to use these assistive devices. And I quickly learned that things like your readings in high school and different things you're trying to view on the internet, not all of them are created upstream for screen readers. And when you have to negotiate that, you end up deploying a lot of shadow IT solutions that your school doesn't necessarily know about.
No kidding. So you end up bringing your own sort of like BYO tech.
Absolutely.
To make it all go around for you.
You have to. Otherwise you, especially back in that time.
Right.
I'm like 32 years old. So in tech years, I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah, you're almost as old as I am in tech years.
Exactly. But you're not old. I'm the old one. You don't have one of these canes yet. You're still doing okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And through the things that I've read in the literature, I have learned that for disabled students, technical literacy is not a given, which I find to be absolutely insane.
That is... Why do you think that is?
Well, I think most likely not every educational institution is as forward-thinking as yours.
Okay.
And I think that many high schools, or in some cases higher education institutions, just don't have the faculty that have been trained on these things. I was having a conversation with Sam Burns, who is the iSchool's IT director. And we were talking through a problem concerning access that AI might have on your hard drive in the future. And we were talking through the security of that. And I was like, well, Sam, why don't we just partition one portion of the hard drive for sensitive data and encrypt it?
Yeah.
And then put the AI whatever on the main hard drive. And he told me, not everyone knows what a partition table is.
Isn't that the truth? And you know, I am fascinated by the fact that you had to teach yourself how to use this technology. And I find that a lot of the people that I work with lament the fact that they have to learn new technology.
No, I love it.
Yeah, but it's not just because you're intrinsically motivated because you love it. It's because it's a way to overcome challenges and obstacles in your way.
Yes, yeah, because no one really knows how to do that. The research tells me that a disabled person getting a higher education degree is way below the percentage of those without disabilities.
Right.
And so oftentimes people don't necessarily know how to assist you, and it's not their fault. They've just never seen it.
No, they've never seen it. And, you know, teachers teach the way they were taught, right? You've heard that before.
Yes.
And so you have so many faculty who have gone through their entire career up until they're standing in front of a classroom themselves where they've never had to either be in a classroom with someone who had needs or delivered a lecture in that way. So in some ways, it's really not only the individual responsibility of the faculty member to take it seriously, and Vanessa was talking about this in the previous episode, that one of the big takeaways is that we should all be in the accessibility business. But what could we be doing, and what are you seeing happening coming out of your research in the iSchool and elsewhere where they're starting to think more about systematic faculty training and faculty development?
Well, that's a great question, and I'll be honest with you. What I'm seeing is everyone wants it.
Everyone wants it.
But no one knows quite how to operationalize it. Because, like I said, all the institutions have different processes.
Yeah.
And so you know this. As a CIO, you have to look at where the institution is, and you try to have to sink your teeth into where they want to go and how you can leverage the tools that are out there to give them a central solution, or as far central as you can get it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like these are core responsibilities of the institution, and maybe in some cases they've just been overlooked or ignored because there are other things that you need to invest in.
Well, and that gets into another interesting issue there, Cole. I call it the ghost population problem.
Okay.
Because you have to register oftentimes with disability services to get access to things, particularly in undergrad. And not every student chooses to register
Right.
with the Disability Services Office. Not every institution knows exactly how many disabled students they have and what classification of disabilities they have.
Yeah, because that's a personal disclosure.
Yes.
Like you have to make the actual decision to go and say, I need to seek out some assistance for this type of learning or this type of context, correct?
Yes, and on top of that, there is a process for registering. Most times you go to a doctor and you get a doctor's note.
Right.
And then you send that to the disability coordinator, and they set up a meeting with you to go through your accommodations. I'm just pulling this out of my head from my time at Texas State.
Right.
But that's generally the process. And you better do that before school starts. Otherwise, you're behind.
But do you feel as though there's a population in that ghost population that you talk about, which I think is a fantastic metaphor, by the way, that don't register not because they don't know where to go, but because they're intimidated to, or they're embarrassed to, or they don't want to?
That is possible, and that's actually in the research. There's something that the research calls a fear of disclosure.
Okay.
For negative stigmatization.
Sure.
And other reasons like this. And my thinking, which is I'm not going to say controversial, but it's kind of different. I'm saying, these kids have been in school for years before now. Why aren't we breaking down those fears when they're younger?
Yeah.
Because the reality is they're going to need more help. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Do you think that whole area of sort of social research, so I'm thinking of prevention science when we're talking about this, and the programs that many schools and districts go through to help them deal with things like drug abuse, overdose, suicide, depression in youth, that there hasn't been enough emphasis placed on that notion that you just described?
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. And I think if you create an environment where these students are allowed to talk about those kind of fears and be coached through them, you come out with better communicators.
Yes.
You come out with a channel for these students to just tell you what they need so you can operationalize it. And they're better able to give you feedback on accessibility experiences so we can improve the institution as a whole. Because accessibility is not just for those students with disabilities. It trickles down into technology and makes it easier to use for everyone.
Yeah, and you're in the iSchool and you're pursuing a PhD, which, by the way, kudos. That's fantastic. I'm interested in, what do you see yourself doing post-doctorate? Where do you see applying all of this work that you've been doing? How do you see yourself moving forward?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I certainly want to continue my work in higher education in some context. I think higher education is the silver bullet for individuals with disabilities. Obviously, for many reasons, they are prohibited from doing things like trade schools or other manual labor jobs. And my ultimate goal is to get a higher portion of that population contributing to the workforce and being as independent as they can be for as long as they can be.
We should have just ended on that. My God, Jaxsen, what a statement. That's fantastic. I wonder, are you working on any technologies now that you think are going to help propel that vision that you have?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. So I'm currently working with one of your colleagues, Mario Guerra, at Enterprise Technology. And I know a lot of people have been talking about this recently, and your listeners are going to go, oh, God, not again. But AI is changing this game.
Yeah.
AI is changing digital accessibility, full stop.
So say more about that.
Well, oh gosh, where do I start?
You start wherever you want to, because now you've tapped into my area of deep interest. So I'd love to hear what you're seeing, what you're thinking in this space.
Excellent. Okay, I love that. And I'll try to relate it back to my research. One of the issues that the academic librarians talked about with us is helping students navigate the library databases.
Okay.
Because of my technological acumen,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to figure out how to design a program that if I give it a reference, it will go out and it will provide me with the UTeasy proxy link for that article.
Mm-hmm.
I will click that link. I will go through my authorization so it doesn't bypass any of the security measures.
Sure.
And you will be directed right to the landing page of that article and you can download it. You bypass the discovery layer entirely. And all of the output from ChatGPT or any other AI service like Claude
Mm-hmm.
is instantly machine readable.
Right.
So it works right off the rip with screen readers.
Which is really nice, because so few people realize what it sounds like to listen to a screen reader read a very busy page of unformatted text.
Oh my goodness, it's terrible.
Right.
And it's not only terrible because you are getting jumbled.
Yep.
It's terrible because the screen reader doesn't necessarily understand reading order.
Right.
So you can be reading one paragraph and then it jumps to a completely different section of the paper and now you're entirely lost.
Yeah. And you've lost, sometimes a full second column of a page, or you've moved from one page to the third page. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
With unstructured content.
Yeah, exactly. And academia, in a lot of ways, is plagued with unstructured content, not just articles. I mean, think about journal submissions.
Yep.
The portals for journal submissions. I have, I don't know if you're familiar with Atlas.
Yes.
ChatGPT's web browser. I have Atlas
Okay.
now crawling those pages to tell me where the submission buttons are.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
So you're now using AI as an enhanced assistive technology to help you not just discover, but to navigate and to take action.
Absolutely. It's the only way currently that you can do it. Right now, AI is a crutch for accessibility. But I hope it becomes more of just a sanity check in the future.
Interesting. Do you think that faculty, so you know how faculty get uptight when you say, oh, I'm going to use AI in this class?
I'm glad you said that, sir. Yes, yeah. I do. I understand what you're saying.
And there you are using AI not in a way that is, counterproductive to your learning. You're using it just to unlock the access to the learning.
Yes. And most of the time when faculty are talking about AI, I think they're focusing on a fear, which is the fear of cheating.
That's right.
And I will actually quote you because you said this better than I ever could.
Okay.
If we're in the golden age of cheating, doesn't that mean we're in the dark ages of assessment?
Oh, man. You did your homework, my friend.
Hey, if I'm coming to meet you, I'm doing all the homework I can.
You got me there. Well, so then where are we in the golden age versus dark ages of supporting students with disabilities?
I think as long as institutions like UT and people like yourself, Mario and Sam, keep pushing the benefits of these technologies versus the fears,
yeah,
I think we're heading in a great direction. I think if we allow students to use these technologies, we're going to push our faculty to make better assessments, better assignments, have better conversations. If you can talk to ChatGPT or Claude for an hour about a subject and then go into class as a student, you will ask better questions of your professors.
I believe that as well. I mean, I think that's a very astute point. And I always try to look at technology implementations through the, the rose-colored glasses, if you will. Now, I've missed some. Social media I thought was going to be a great equalizer for the planet, and I feel like it's sort of dragged us down a very negative path in many, many ways. How do we avoid that?
Well, oh gosh, that is a great question, and I think it just comes from an issue of exposure. For instance, most people that utilize AI, I think a lot of them treat it like Google.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm just going to get the answer to this question. Well, not necessarily. The AI hallucinates.
Yep.
You have to understand how to talk to the program. And in terms of the negative aspects of social media, a lot of people seem to be using AI as like a therapist almost. I'm not getting this from research I've read. I'm getting it from something that other people have told me about.
Right.
And, my thinking is we need to just have conversations around the way people are using this AI, because what it can do is help you manage your cognitive load. What it shouldn't do is try to poke inside your brain as a human being and get into all of that existential stuff with you.
Yeah. But people interact with technology in insane ways. But I do think, and one of the other things that I've said is conversational AI is a weird thing because it replicates something we're all familiar with, which is chat.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone's been chatting since AIM.
That's right. Like, remember AIM? Like, you're 32, so you're about the age when AIM was really hitting when you were a youngster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You probably spent a lot of time back and forth on AIM.
Oh, yeah. It was nuts. You could talk to anyone at any time as long as you had their little screen name.
That's it.
You didn't have to use a telephone if your telephone line was tied up by somebody else.
By your modem.
Exactly. Exactly. By the modem. I mean, we've come a long way in terms of the modalities of communication.
Yeah.
And I think it's just worth noting, look, we're going to have some edge cases where we see what AI is doing and we're like, oh, we have to prevent this. But it's also worth acknowledging the doors that it opens for so many people.
I agree with that. And I'm curious, two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
What's one thing that I could go and talk to the rest of the administration about that we need to do better to serve students?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. I love that. I mean, I think one thing that is very important is just don't be afraid to communicate.
Okay.
Because a lot of times the answer you will get is, I don't know, go to this person.
Right.
And then you have more and more people in this feedback loop, and eventually no one knows what they're doing.
Do you think people behave that way because they're uncomfortable in these kinds of conversations?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
And how do you feel in these conversations?
I love them.
Do you?
But I've trained myself to love them.
Yeah.
My attitude is, if I don't have these conversations with people, no one will. My life won't get any better. Somebody else's life in my position won't get any better. Somebody has to just open the dialogue. And that, I think, is extremely valuable, especially somebody from your position, because it will impact the technologies we have access to, what the teams are focusing on, the feedback channels that you could build for various accessibility experiences, etc. We just need to build better communication. I mean, I'll put it this way. My PhD experience has been the best educational experience I have had, because if I tell Ken, my advisor, or Sam, or someone that I know that I need something, they will figure out how to help me get it.
And has that not always been the case?
No, not in undergrad.
Not in undergrad.
Undergrad is full of just procedural things, and no one knows, oh, you need this thing? Well, I'm not that department.
Right.
You have to go over here. And then you re-explain the same problem, and et cetera, and so forth. And so I think just opening a better communication channel around all of these things, AI, the accessibility of library databases, assistive technology training, just starting to build a more robust dialogue would be amazing.
It really is a big difference maker. I was telling Vanessa and Mario in the last episode that when I was at Penn State, we were sued by the National Federation for the Blind.
What? Tell me more.
Massive lawsuit. And it was everything from the automated teller machines where you take money out to like a Mac machine to the classroom technology that faculty and teaching assistants had to use. We didn't have Braille on our classroom doors, for example. We had signs up that said, in an emergency, call this number, but there was no way for a non-sighted person to see it.
Really?
Oh, it was a, massively expensive lawsuit, but it taught us so much. And the interesting thing is what you just talked about is what it taught us the most, that we needed to start to have an open dialogue and expose more people on campus to the challenges our students were facing every single day.
Well, Cole, and I'm glad you told me that story, because I'd like to tell you that's why I'm here. That's what I want to contribute to this institution. I want to help you identify those problems before they cause you a problem.
And it's one of the reasons we're so thankful that you're working with us in this endeavor, because we need the depth of insight that you can provide. And that's a testament to really your willingness to wake up every morning and, fight against the physical environment. I mean, tell the story about getting down here today. Like Sam tried to bring you over here. The police were hassling you to try to get a parking place.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
Yes. Okay, so let's start with this disclaimer. I don't want to get any employees in trouble. Thank goodness I don't have any names.
Well, I'll protect those, the ones that are unnamed. How's that?
Excellent.
Okay.
Perfect. They should put some shadows behind my faces or something.
Can we make his voice sound different for this segment so he's no longer identifiable?
So Sam Burns, that IT director from the high school, he was helping me get here because I'd never been to this building.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have experience in a particular physical environment, I don't really know how to go there. But I am not going to turn down a meeting with the CIO of the school.
Well, I wasn't going to turn down a meeting with you.
So I'm going to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And when we arrived, Sam pulled up to the little booth where the parking police are stationed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, I need to drop this student off at the underground. Where do I go? And the gentleman behind the booth was like, is there a particular reason why you're asking to drop him off especially? Mm-hmm. And he explains, well, yeah, he's got a wheelchair and a cane. He's disabled. And they made him do a U-turn and park at the curb.
Yep.
Far away from the building. And Sam had to kind of verbally direct me. Well, he tried. He tried to verbally direct me where to go. And then when he realized that wasn't going to work because I couldn't see that far. I've got visual impairments and physical impairments, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He just walked me to the entrance. He found the entrance and walked me inside, found the elevator, and then I told him I'd meet him back at UTA because I didn't want anything to happen to his car because they didn't guarantee that nothing wouldn't happen to his car.
Of course. Well, I know all of the pieces of that puzzle, and I'll be talking to some folks about that interaction, and nobody will get in trouble.
I appreciate that.
We'll just do better. How's that sound?
That sounds fantastic. And if there's any way I can help,
but that's the dialogue
for me.
Right there, Jaxsen, right? That's the dialogue. Just being able to say that out loud, because you mentioned earlier that something relative to the cognitive overhead goes up. So a student with disabilities is not just trying to overcome all of the cognitive overhead of screen readers and assistive technologies. They're having to overcome the physical environment as well. And
absolutely.
I can't even imagine how that stacks upon itself.
Oh, it does. Sam actually has a metaphor for this. He calls it having spoons.
Okay.
It's basically like having spoons in your silverware drawer for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you expend the last spoon, you're done. You can't do anymore.
And do you get to that point in a day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
like obviously we all do, but
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to, my experimentation and use of AI, and my work with Mario is helping me understand in what ways I can reduce that cognitive load for certain tasks so I can do more for you and the rest of the institution writ large.
So, Jaxsen, we're about wrapped up, and I got to ask you this question. If you were going to send a message to yourself when you were back in middle school, about what your experience would be like getting to your PhD. How would you describe that to yourself?
I would describe it as you're going to have a lot of nights where you're doing work before the work. You are OCRing articles so that you'll be able to read them. You are asking people where to go for certain accommodations. You are going with O&M trainers to learn your physical environment. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it because we're here in this room right now.
Yeah.
And if you asked me where I want us to be in 5 years,
Yep.
I'd say I want accessibility as infrastructure rather than request.
Well, I don't know what else to say other than we have our new motto. We have our motto. You nailed it, Jaxsen. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to invite you back, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, sir. Anytime.
I'd love to have you back to talk about this, but plus, I really, at some point, really would love to dive more deeply into some of the work you're doing with Mario and the AI Studio going forward with your connection with the iSchool and how you're helping us tackle these issues. So,
absolutely, sir. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
Jaxsen, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
So for Jaxsen and myself, this has been ET Talk, Enterprise Technology Talk, episode 6, I believe. And onward and upward. Jaxsen, thank you again so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.